There's been a battle brewing between Silicon Valley's most influential companies, Facebook and Apple, in the last few years. So, what is the reason for this feud between Mark Zuckerberg and Tim Cook? The fight is all about you, more specifically, the data they collect about you. Our relationship with technology is evolving rapidly as the years go by. Some companies are taking different approaches to deal with privacy and security issues. Apple is a company that is taking a more focused approach as to how they can make their users safer in the ever-growing online world. The results, however, have some companies up in arms, Facebook being one of them. Facebook's approach to your privacy is, well, they don't care about your privacy. That's the whole problem. For years, privacy concerns have become more demanded. As a result, companies that skirt around their responsibilities are being targeted more and more by governments worldwide. But beyond governments, companies like Apple are taking a stand of their own. The results could be dangerous and have long-lasting effects as we walk into a new decade, a future where we see the market shrink and the control of a few grow even more so than it already has in the last 20 years. In this video, we'll explore the release of the iPhone 13 and why Apple's move might be a significant threat to Facebook's very existence. Changing company dynamics. Apple and Facebook have been around for a long time and they've evolved over the years. Their evolutions are why we are where we are today. Let's start with Facebook, which dominates the news far more than Apple does, and for all the wrong reasons. For the more significant part of a decade, Facebook has been news every week for numerous reasons. Still, none of them ever seem to be good. The controversies surrounding the company, its practices, and its services have been the talk of Washington and throughout the world. Global powers have longed to figure out the right way to approach what they deem to be a toxic platform against the very being of their societies and an enemy to democracies. The allegations are by no means lighthearted. Throw in a dozen antitrust charges and you've got the extent of Facebook's existence. 2021 has been an especially difficult year for the company, as things are only getting more heated week by week. Whistleblowers are bringing new and damning evidence to light, and it's getting difficult for the average citizen to see the benefit of this prevalent platform. On the other hand, Apple may have its own controversy, but it in no way matches the scope of Facebook's legal issues. Apple has spent the last decade reconfiguring its approach to its products and their relationship with the user. Privacy is the most extensive area where they've attacked their fellow tech companies. This comes as they try to make the Apple ecosystem all the user needs in tech, while keeping it safe and secure for their users. If you look at what Apple has been up to in the last few years, you'll notice a double-down approach to privacy matters. While their goal might be to keep your privacy safe, the way they're going about achieving that is icing out numerous competitors in the same space. A few examples of this privacy-first approach have Apple features like Safari blocking trackers, anonymizing map information, Siri working more on the device than through a server, Apple Pay, and many more. So in all of this, where is the thing that is scaring Facebook? iOS 14 pretext. Apple started creating methods to alert Apple users of what companies were doing and how they were gathering their information. A noticeable change was how you'd be asked when going into an app if you wanted to allow it to use certain functions only while in the app instead of all the time in the background. This could be anything from your camera, location, photos, and more. These changes are significant, but they were never intended to be treated as the end of Apple's privacy developments. iOS 14 should have been treated as the pretext for what was to come from Apple. Announced at the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference, iOS 14 had a very noticeable feature that, when revealed, reverberated throughout Silicon Valley. They introduced a pop-up that asks you if you want to allow the app to track you across different apps and websites. By saying no, Apple is now severing the app's abilities from doing what some might argue is its primary purpose, data collection. For Facebook, this is a massive deal. Apple's iOS 14 changes strike at the very core of their desire to extract the necessary information to build your profile and sell products directly to you. But more importantly, for Facebook, it's playing with a lucrative revenue stream. And John Costier of Forbes estimated a loss of $10 billion. So as you can imagine, Facebook is not happy with it. What's worse, this was all the building blocks for the iPhone 13 and iOS 15, released on September 20th, 2021, iPhone 13 and how it might kill Facebook. Facebook was angry with the news of iOS 14, but iOS 15 is a whole different ballgame, and it's not good news for Facebook. The Wall Street Journal reported in July that advertisers are already jumping ship and focusing on Android devices. Why? Because iPhone users are opting out of sharing their information. While iOS 14 showed users what apps and services were accessing on their phone, iOS 15 takes it a step further and delivers privacy reports, which offers the user reports that precisely show what their apps are accessing. Apple is adding to their suite of privacy products with private relays, which encrypts all outgoing internet requests and replaces IP addresses with temporary ones to a third party. This means Apple is erecting a firewall and blocking all third-party sites from harvesting information about their users. The choice of sharing information has become an optional choice on the side of the user and not third parties. Let's be honest, if you were asked to share your information, you'd probably tell the app to get lost, and Facebook knows this, which terrifies them. Monopolistic ambitions. While the components of the Facebook versus Apple fights are interesting, what we should be paying more attention to are Apple's long-term goals. For example, there have long been rumors that Apple is looking to change their phone's default search engines to something of their design. If you think Apple could never replace Google, then you are unaware of the scope of Apple's power as a company. It's becoming increasingly clear that Apple has a goal of monopolizing its customers into using Apple-made products and services and weaning them off of their competitors' products. This is apparent in so many areas, and it's going to become even more noticeable over time. Things like VPNs and financial services akin to Venmo Go, and so much more is being worked on to make it so you don't need any other company other than Apple. While maybe on the surface, these seem great for Apple users, the real problem here is that this is the exact thing we should be worried about long term. Being beholden to a single company can be a dangerous path to travel down. Right now, we're walking blindly into a neon Apple sign light. Listen, I know the saying goes, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, but I don't think this is what they meant when they came up with the saying. Positives. However, it's important to note that this isn't all doom and gloom. Apple is doing things that genuinely benefit people's lives. We should be concerned about what this means for the future. The reality is right now, Apple is protecting people from what has become a standard practice that we've paid very little attention to until now. Facebook is going to continue its crusade against Apple's tactics. They'll lobby in Washington, slander Apple through ads, and do whatever they can to make Apple the villain. Still, they won't change their ways or even take a moment to consider is such an option. For Facebook to actually change its way, it would require Congress to step up and get involved. But unfortunately, while senators and members of the House love to talk a big game, I think we can all agree that their bark is far worse than their bite. So let's maybe not hold our breaths on that happening anytime soon. Case in point, while a great exchange, even somewhat funny, I laughed at least. The truth is, we've seen little to back it up in terms of consequences. Everyone agrees to go after Facebook, but because nobody can agree with how they go about doing it, means they leave Facebook to run rampant longer. Facebook as a company grew at an exponential rate. For over a decade, they've avoided taking ownership of the damage they've caused. There is so much damage that we don't even have the time to list them all. But from harvesting data to trafficking and hate speech and creating algorithms that facilitate hate speech and rhetoric to engage their users, Facebook truly has become too big, and anyone willing to take a stand against them should be applauded. Facebook is being given a chance to review its methods and have a more equitable relationship with the users of its massive platforms. But sadly, Facebook's response to criticism and tactics such as Apple's is always the same: deflect and sue. For years, people have wondered how to finally put Facebook in its place, and Apple may be providing the template to do just that. Over the next few years, Facebook will be challenged at every turn to adapt to a new way of consumer interaction or face the potential revolt that's coming their way.